In this video I'm going to go through movies that really encapsulate the excess greed, glamour, corruption of the financial world. In no particular order, we start with Wall Street, released in 1987, the Oliver Stone classic about excess and corruption of the 1980s. It stars Michael Douglas at the height of his powers playing the suave, charismatic Gordon Gekko, and Charlie Sheen way before his comedic roles, and riding high off his role in Platoon the previous year. He was then known as a serious actor and one of the biggest rising stars. Charlie plays Bud Fox, a young and ambitious stockbroker who gets involved with Gordon Gekko, a ruthless, greedy corporate raider. Bud learns the dark side of Wall Street where greed is good and ethics are irrelevant. The Wall Street movie is a fictional story that does not involve real stocks or companies. However, it does portray some aspects of the stock market and financial industry, including insider trading, corporate raiding and junk bonds. Although it does not end well for both involved, the charismatic characters, highs of trading and endless money involved is what it will be remembered for, and I imagine applications for jobs on Wall Street was significantly up when the film came out. Wall Street has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 79% and an audience score of 81%. I did think this would be higher. I think it is an underrated film, and one that I've watched many times. It did spawn a sequel, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps. Not as good as its predecessor, but still worth a watch. Next up is Margin Call, released in 2011. It depicts the events of a 24-hour period at a large Wall Street investment bank during the early stages of the 2007-2008 financial crisis. The film follows a group of employees who discover that the firm is on the verge of collapse due to its exposure to risky mortgage-backed securities. The film shows how the executives decide to sell off all the toxic assets before the market realises their true value. Even though this will have devastating consequences for the financial system and their clients, the film explores the theme of greed, ethics and human nature in the face of a looming disaster. The good financial topics you'll learn about are mortgage-backed securities, how to use leverage, and margin call. It features an ensemble cast with Kevin Spacey, Paul Bettany, Jeremy Irons, Demi Moore and Stanley Tucci. Margin Call has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87% and an audience score of 74%. It's a movie I keep coming back to and I highly recommend watching it. Next is The Big Short. The Big Short was released in 2015 and it's a movie based on the book of the same name by Michael Lewis, which tells the story of how a few investors and traders predicted and profited from the 2007-2008 financial crisis that was caused by the collapse of the US housing market. The movie follows four different groups of characters who discover that the housing market is still built on risky subprime loans that are likely to default and decide to bet against or short the market by creating a new financial instrument called credit default swap. The movie shows how they face various challenges and obstacles from the banks, the media and the regulators, who are either oblivious or complicit in the fraud and corruption of the system. The movie also uses celebrity cameos and humorous explanations to break the fourth wall and educate the audience about the complex and obscure financial terms and concepts involved in the crisis. If you had no prior knowledge of the history of events portrayed in this film, you couldn't fathom that this could possibly have been allowed to happen. Praise was given for the historical accuracy and that minimal creative license was used. The movie stars Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling and Brad Pitt, and was directed and co-written by Adam McKay. The Big Short has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 89% and an audience score of 88%. Bale's portrayal of Michael Burry is incredible. Burry is a household name in the investment world and it's worth watching for that alone. Next up is The Wolf of Wall Street, which was released in 2013. Directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Leonardo DiCaprio's Jordan Belfort, a real-life stockbroker who rose to fame and fortune in the 1990s by running a fraudulent and corrupt firm called Stratton Oakmont. The movie depicts Belfort's lavish and hedonistic lifestyle, which involves drugs, sex, parties and crime, as well as his downfall, which is triggered by the investigations of the FBI and the SEC. The movie is based on Belfort's memoir of the same name, which he wrote after serving 22 months in prison for securities fraud and money laundering. In true Scorsese style, it has a long runtime but never feels like 3 hours due to how much content is packed in. You really learn a lot about IPOs, which is an initial public offering. A privately owned company lists its shares on the stock exchange, making them available for purchase by the general public. These events are always hyped up and FOMO is high. Everyone rushes to buy the shares thinking the price will run up. A lot of the times, the inevitable pump and dump happens, in this case with Steve Madden stock. The process is explained really well and it is interesting to see the psychology of it all and how addictive it all is. It also stars Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie and the scene-stealing Matthew McConaughey. The Wolf of Wall Street has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 80% and an audience score of 83%. This is surprisingly low. The movie was a critical and commercial success and received 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Next up, some notable mentions. Let's start with Boiler Room, released in 2000. It's a movie about a college dropout who joins a shady brokerage firm and gets involved in a scheme to defraud investors. The film is based on real-life experiences of the writer and director Ben Younger, who interviewed for a job at a similar firm. The film exposes the dark side of the stock market and corruption of the brokers who manipulate their clients. The film also features references to the classic Wall Street movie and its main character Gordon Gekko, who is idolised by the brokers. The film stars Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel with hair, and Ben Affleck. Boiler Rooms has a Rotten Tomato score of 66% and an audience score of 78%. Next is Trading Places, released in 1983, starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy as 2 men who switch their social positions as part of a bet by 2 wealthy brothers. The film is a satire of the class system and the stock market, and it also features references to the Wall Street movie. I love the trading floor scene, which is complete pandemonium. Trading Places has a Rotten Tomato score of 88% and an audience score of 85%. Next up, Rogue Trader, released in 1999, is based on the true story of Nick Leeson, a young and reckless trader who caused the collapse of Barings Bank, one of the oldest and most prestigious banks in Britain. The film follows Leeson's rise and fall as he gambles with huge sums of money in the Singapore stock market, using a secret account to hide his losses. The film shows how Leeson's actions were enabled by the lack of supervision and control from his superiors, who were blinded by his apparent success. Even though it has low reviews and it isn't in the same league as the previous movies mentioned, I was captivated by the true story and amazed at how Nick Leeson managed to get away with it for so long. There are a few other finance-related movies that I've enjoyed, including Limitless, Glengarry Glen Ross, and The Founder. I would be interested to hear any other recommendations. Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. As usual, if you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.